Good morning, students. How are you? Take care of yourself. Today we will revise Chapter 1, How Plants Reproduce. What is reproduction? Reproduction means to give birth to young ones. How do plants reproduce? Plants reproduce in three different ways. First, from their seeds. Second, from their spores. Third, from their different parts, that is, roots, stem, leaves, or underground stem. What are the different parts of a seed? A seed has three main parts. Seed coat, it protects the baby plant. It is the outermost cover of the seed. Seed leaves, they have food stored in them. An embryo that grows into a new plant. Can you see the diagram on the right? It shows seed coat as the outermost covering, the two seed leaves. You can see the baby root growing towards the soil, and the baby shoot will go above the soil. Germination. Write one sentence on germination. The development of an embryo within a seed into a seedling is known as germination. Which are the conditions necessary for germination? Conditions necessary for germination are air, water, and warmth. Why does a seed need air, water, and warmth to germinate? A seed needs air to breathe, water to make the seed coat soft and help the embryo to break through the seed coat and come out, warmth to make the embryo active to grow into a new plant. Can you see in the given diagram? The seed needs sunlight, air, water, and of course some space to grow. What would happen if a seed does not get warmth, water, or air? Yes, if the seed will not get any of the three conditions, the seed will not germinate. What comes out of the seed? A baby plant known as the seedling comes out of the seed. What would happen if all the seeds were to grow near the mother plant? If all the seeds were to grow near the mother plant, there would be shortage of space, air, food, water for all the seeds to grow well. So then, how are seeds moved away? Plants are unable to move on their own. Natural agents help seed to move away from the mother plant. Which are the natural agents? They are wind, water, animals like birds or human beings, and explosion by plants. Define seed dispersal. Seed dispersal is the process of moving away of the seeds from the mother plant. This is a diagram showing seed dispersal. Which are the four agents of seed dispersal? Seed dispersal takes place by wind, by water, by animals, and by explosion. Give two examples of seed dispersal by wind. Cotton, hiptage. Two examples of seed dispersal by water are coconut, lotus. Two examples of seed dispersal by animals are mango, guava, cocklebur. Examples of seed dispersal by explosion are pea, balsam. How does seed dispersal take place in cotton? A cotton seed has fluffy fibers around it, which help them to float or fly in the air. What is special about the seed of hiptage? A hiptage seed has seed wings. Dispersal of seed takes place in by water in coconut plant and in lotus. A coconut has a thick fibrous coat to help it to float far away. The lotus has a spongy and light fruit which can float far away. Dispersal takes place by animals. In case of cocklebur, the seed has spikes or hooks. These seeds get attached to the fur of animals or even to human clothing and gets carried away. How dispersal takes place in pea? Dispersal of seed takes place in pea plant by explosion. When the pod becomes dry, the seeds are thrown out of the fruit and they get scattered when the pod bursts open. Name the plant that produce spores. Ferns and mosses produce spores. Why they produce spores? Because these plants do not have flowers, fruits or seeds. How do the plants reproduce? In these plants, each spore grows into a new plant. Reproduction from plant parts. How does reproduction take place by stem cuttings? New plants can grow from the stem cutting of rose or hibiscus or sugarcane. That is, if you have a rose plant at home, you can take a stem cutting and plant it somewhere else to get a new rose plant. Reproduction takes place by underground stem in potato and ginger. Yes. So what happens when a potato has eyes on it? If it gets proper conditions, each eye grows a bud that can become a new plant. How does reproduction take place in sweet potato? Sweet potato is a root. When its root is planted, it can grow into new plant. How does a bryophyllum leaf reproduce? Some leaves grow new plant from their edges. So bryophyllum leaf, can you see in the picture? A new plant comes out from the edges, and when the new plant develops root and shoot, it detaches from the mother plant. Say one sentence on crops. Crops are plants grown for food in large area. Name the two types of crops. The two types of crops are Rabi crops and Kharif crops. What is the difference between Rabi crops and Kharif crops? Rabi crops are grown in winter, whereas Kharif crops are grown in summer. Rabi crops are harvested in March or April. Kharif crops are harvested in October or November. Example of Rabi crops are wheat, barley, mustard or gram. Example of Kharif crops are maize, jowar, bajra, jute and cotton. Vegetable and fruits grown in winter are all the winter vegetables and fruits like cabbage, cauliflower, peas, beans, radish, apple, orange. An example of Kharif vegetable and fruits are ladyfinger, brinjal, pumpkin, mango. Write one sentence on orchard. Fruit trees are grown on large pieces of land called orchard. So if you have apple plantation on large area of land, that area is called an apple orchard. What are the steps a farmer takes for growing crops? The farmer takes several steps to grow his crops well. First, he prepares the soil by plowing the field. Second, he adds manure to the soil. Third, the seeds are sown. Fourth, the soil and crops need to be irrigated or watered regularly. Fifth, crops must be sprayed with insecticide and pesticides to protect them from insects and other pests. Sixth, when crops are ripe, they are harvested. Harvesting is the cutting and gathering of ripened crops. Last but the most important point is grains should be stored carefully in dry places or in airtight sealed containers. Why are grains stored in airtight sealed containers? Because moisture ruins crops and grains, because it allows the growth of fungi and bacteria. Name the 6 steps of farming. The 6 steps of farming are tilling, sowing, fertilizing, irrigating, protecting, harvesting. Tilling the land or plowing the field or preparing the field means the same. What are the tips for good farming? For good farming, seeds used for sowing must be of good quality and healthy. The soil must be irrigated well so that the crops receive the right amount of water at the right time. To protect crops from being destroyed by insect and pests such as grasshoppers, caterpillars, locusts and plant lice, safe pesticides should be used. Crops should also be protected against diseases and small animals. Chemicals like insecticide and pesticide must be sprayed, but overuse of insecticide and pesticide is harmful to health. Fields where crops are grown should be fenced, and unwanted plants should be removed from the fields. What are fertilizers? Fertilizers are added to the field to make the soil rich in minerals. Which are the 2 kinds of fertilizers? The 2 kinds of fertilizers are manure and chemical fertilizers. What is the difference between manure and chemical fertilizer? Manure is natural, chemical fertilizers are man-made. Manure is produced from the waste of animals, chemical fertilizer is made from chemicals. Manure is safe to use, chemical fertilizer can be harmful to use. Example of manure is cow dung. Example of chemical fertilizer is urea or superphosphate. Do you know you can make organic fertilizer at home? We can make use of waste vegetable peels, fruit peels, dry leaves and flowers. Take a bucket and put all the waste in it. Mix soil in it, cover the bucket and leave it for a few days. Let these waste degenerate. After a few days, use it as homemade natural fertilizer for the plants. Let's revise. Which are the things needed for germination? 3 things are needed for germination. They are air, water and warmth. Give reasons why seeds should be stored in airtight containers. Seeds should be stored in airtight containers because moisture can destroy the crops. Explain how new plants grow from bryophyllum. In bryophyllum, new plant grows from the edges of the leaf. It grows its own roots and leaves. Then it separates from the mother plant. Write a sentence on ferns. Ferns are plants that produce spores because they do not have flowers. Name a nut which grows well in coastal areas. Answer: coconut. Give an example of each. A cereal crop, rice. A chemical fertilizer, urea. I hope the explanation of the lesson and the revision is very clear to you. Answer the revision worksheet given in the PDF file. If you have purchased the book set, you may do the work in the test copy. Read the material given in the previous PDF files on Chapter 1 to prepare for the assessment exam next week. Thank you.